Most modern sessions, especially vocal sessions, tend to go on for quite a while as the performer and producer work to get the perfect performance down. But on the other side of the coin, some sessions, especially ones booked on a tight budget and a tight schedule, can be kind of wham-bam in and out affairs. Sometimes a singer who's been performing a song live for weeks or months may come into the vocal session, blast their way through an inspired first take, and then feel they've got it, and why blow out their voice by continuing with more takes? Better to move on to the next song while they're still on a roll, so to speak. But while this can work at times, sometimes once is all it takes. More often than not, when it comes to vocal recording, one and done would probably be a mistake. There are a number of reasons why it's probably a better idea to record several takes of everything, even if that first take really does seem like the performer nailed it. They may have, in fact, nailed it, and at the end of the day, you may end up using that first take as the keeper after all, even if there were others laid down as well. The trouble is, in the moment of the actual session, you can never really be sure that you're not missing some small detail that may ultimately turn out to be a deal breaker for that take. And I'm not really talking about a bum note here and there, or a bad pitch. As we all know, nowadays these flaws are easy to fix with modern studio technology. I'm thinking more of interpretation, feel, vibe, those more subtle musical qualities where something that's not quite the best it could be may not really be picked up on until the producer and engineer have had a chance to sit down and listen to the recording with their full attention on the details of the performance rather than divided among the multitude of distractions during the actual session. And, of course, in accordance with Murphy's Law, inevitably, by that time, the singer is long gone and unavailable, at least within a reasonable time frame, to come back in for a fix or a redo. These kinds of interpretive flaws, while they might be able to be addressed by a talented audio editor with a particularly good ear for vocal nuance, would most likely be best dealt with by using a piece of a different performance in place of any problem phrase or section. This is the classic studio technique of comping, creating a composite vocal part out of the best bits and pieces of several different performances, several different takes. This practice is so widely employed that it's highly likely that that apparently seamless vocal performance you're enjoying in a favorite song is really the result of studio personnel editing together many different bits of the best takes into what, when it's done well, sounds like a seamless single take, a perfect performance from start to finish. Of course, you can't comp what you ain't got. Without at least one additional take, if you decide well after the fact that a certain line or phrase is just not cutting it, in terms of musical arc or emotional intensity, well, tough luck, you're kind of stuck with what you have. Your only hope might be if the problem line in question is one that repeats throughout the song, like a chorus refrain. In that case, you might be able to fly in the same line from another part of the same take. But even then, the feel of the line, as delivered at that other point in the song, may not be appropriate as a substitute for the section that needs to be addressed, and the wrong feel or intensity is the whole problem you're looking to address. But with several takes, even if one is the standout for 90% of the song, the chances are exponentially better that you'll be able to adapt an alternate version of that one problem line or phrase and make quick work of a musically acceptable fix without having to settle for a compromise solution. Additional takes can also be very useful for another very widely used studio technique, doubling. Now, of course, even with one take, you can always double a track if desired with ADT, artificial double tracking, the electronic method that utilizes short delays and possibly a little subtle modulation to create the illusion of a second or third singer performing the same part together with the main take.
There is a place for you and me, but we're locked in this room called reality. Got to think for myself.
Doubling is so widespread that most sessions end up producing many, many alternate takes, which is why my one and done scenario may present potential problems that some engineers might not anticipate. But even though ADT is a fine way to create doubled and layered vocal parts, sometimes the part, or the musical style, may call for a looser, more natural doubling, the kind of effect you only really get with an actual second performance.
There is a place for you and me, but we're locked in this room called reality. Got to think for myself.
Just as with comping, unless the only parts you need to double are repeating phrases, where you could mix and match lines from different sections of the same take, without any alternate performances, you'll be stuck with ADT as your only option. Or you could put the mix on hold, rehire the singer or another singer, and run another vocal session to get the requisite loose, natural doubled parts. So, while the vast majority of singers are happy, even eager, to perform multiple takes of many different parts, as most anyone should expect to be asked to do in a typical modern session, if you do end up working on one of those clocks ticking sessions with one of those one-and-done types, as I have on occasion, you're going to want to convince him to lay down at least a couple of alternate takes. Most of the time, you won't get an argument, as long as you don't present the request as if you're making it because you thought that what they just did wasn't good enough. Most engineers find that if the request is presented as, let's do one more just as a safety, or for technical reasons we should have an alternate, your impatient performer will probably be glad to accommodate and may surprise himself with an even better performance than the first take. In fact, I've seen that happen a lot. Very often it's actually the second take that's the charm. So you should always try to hedge your bet and never assume that one take will be enough to get by. Even if that turns out to be the case, you'll still be better off and have additional creative possibilities available with those few extra takes in the hopper.